Check, check, check. Ha ha ha. Hey, Josh. Nah, it's. I pushed the. It was just me. It was. Um. Yeah, we're doing a little surprise stream today. It's come up a couple times. In the live chats that I've done about possibly doing about how I draw and how I do what I do. So I'll be occasionally sharing my stack. It's guys, not you. Typical programming. You guys usually see that I've got StreamYard up in the scary. There's so much lag on that. Here it looks fine now. Okay. So I'm gonna try to keep an eye on the chat, but I'm gonna be doing a lot of talking. Try to play. This is gonna be a long from beginning to. I'm not getting down a little bit. I got some holiday jazz in the background. Get me in the spirit here. All right. So if you've been looking for a how to draw from beginning to end, that's what we're doing today. I've been updating the pinup line. I need to update it, Allison. So I think typically what I have a couple ideas in my head for poses, but I always start with big general shapes. And I think what I'm gonna do, or like I said, bigger, more general shapes. And I like this like lower angle shot looking up. It makes characters look more interesting. Like if you look at like all the early 2000s rap videos, they were always like Ant's point of view looking up at the characters. But really, I don't want to get already starting to get obsessed with some of the details, sort of landmarks. But if you study Lumen method, you'll learn head broken into two big general shapes. Torso is usually a big sort of egg shape. Hips are sort of a big egg shape. Arms and thighs and legs and all that are typically tubes. But the secret is draw your hands first. So if you want your hands doing something more interesting, you draw them first, and then you connect the elbow. Sort of do landmark. I want her to be kind of one hand coming up. Kind of like maybe she's falling down that hole kind of deal. Then sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually position my arm to make sure that I kind of got the angle right. So I want this to be coming out a little bit more to the side, coming off the page. And I stay very loose. I try to use whole arm motions for this instead of doing wrist motion. You'll see me use it here and there. But the idea being, I want to stay loose to get the gestures down. Whole arm, get a bigger swing in your pencil. I've been using the pencil. I think I ordered this after seeing Jim Lee during COVID. That's the same piece of lead that I started with. It's just a big chunky piece of lead. It's hard to find these at art stores. I try to buy local, can. Michael's can be. But if you go on Amazon, lead holders like $7. I bought extra lead that I've not needed. I think it was probably twice as long as I started. But I only use this. I don't use this for shading. I just use get the rough landmarks down. This is my general pose I think I'm going to go with. I like this. I think this will work for a cover. I'll have the logo up here in the corner. The cover for Alice in Waterland. The only I like to do is almost draw like almost like a Black Cat or Harley Quinn mask. Kind of map out where the eyes are going to be. Gives me an idea for eyebrow, cheekbones. But the head's broken into, the top part's going to be like a circle. Bottom part. And then bottom part's more of a wedge. The idea being is your eyes are about halfway down your head. Typically about halfway down. We draw a nice equilateral triangle. We put a little button there. Nose for now. A general expression in there. I don't want to get too bogged down. Details. Alice book. Sort of a headband that she here. Big thing here is going to be big flowing hair. Kind of want to get this flow going. But all the things that you typically think of with pinups, between like the clothing or all form going to look like as far as our figure goes, I don't want to put that in until I'm confident I've got body less mannequined out where I want. Pretty good about that. So I'm staying very light, so that way if I do need to erase anything, it's easy to erase. Like here, thing like coming up. I think about legs. David Finch kind of described it. When you draw your character for your hips, you kind of want to draw almost like they're wearing underwear. Your tidy whities kind of deal. That's going to be your hips. Off of that. Okay, so going to be more Alice. Be a little bit more variant plus center line rib cage. As far as the line coming down, like doing that center line, split up the hemispheres. Way down. Call it about 2 heads. That's where basically character. Like wall. Typically, it's good to draw kind of where those come off the bottom of the rib cage. If you think about it, from center line of the breast comes down almost like a Y down into the rib cage, both sides. From the bottom, that Y, hips are gonna hit. There. Get your Christmas shopping done. At this point, figure's pretty much in there. If I wasn't explaining things, I'd be moving faster. I'm gonna try to explain. Go. There's a delay. So with the eyes are the most important part. J. Scott Campbell has a really good how to draw heads. Quick and easy. But pretty much your top eyelid is going to be sort of 3 lines. One angle, one angle here, one angle down. Bottom of your eyelid is typically 2. And I already don't. Beauty of doing 5. I think I want to have be a little bit more. Up a little. Good idea. Before I start putting in all details, draw the other eye. Make sure track it. Got a good size. Because we're a little bit lower down on the ankle, find a good have her down a little instead of out. Now, he's a controversial guy, but he is very good at drawing. But Mr. Van Sciver once said that when it comes to drawing covers, it's going to be, like I said, an alt cover. Even though you don't want to break the fourth wall in your book, on your covers, it's more interesting to have the character looking at you. Interesting is more exciting. Typically with noses, very simple. Try to kind of make the front a little bit more ball shape. Kind of doing something off of that. Go in and kind of refine those eyes. Tighten up that bottom eyelid. A under eye squint, that's what my buddy used to call it. Like this. I think I'm already screwed. So your jaw after throwing me off. Typically, I don't draw eyelash pencil. It's weird having it. Typically about halfway down face. It always better to have higher up. Right now, better go harder. I don't want rendering shadow on the. Typically, what I have to remind myself process everything. So, for instance, like I don't have any eyelashes really going on. I have any makeup, any rendering. That'll all come together. Back of the neck, look out from where that side of the neck should be out here, kind of following your line will be. Comic book does have a bit of a choker on it. I zoom. Yeah. Never mind my drawing board. All kinds of random notes. Ciphering that. Add plus times paper with and I'll get some of the ink out on the drawing board. Little insider over there. And I'm gonna say read. Okay. Round out a bit. Here we go. You guys are working. Essentially not playing any on the channel simply because number one, if you guys want to listen to your own music, audio coming in, but then also I don't get copy struck. So one of the things to think about, I'm going to do a really sketch up here, is if you want an interesting pose, basic figure here, instead of drawing straight on, alternate. That would be like this. Torso would be like that. Connect them all. Probably. Big thing. Now it's gone. The bag now. I think maybe plug might have been. Yeah, it's like back. Somehow. This has been an utter failure. I literally have to check. Watching like well, that's good. Appreciate you, Celestial. I might have to just have this mic literally right in front of my face. Give that a shot. Let me know if that sounds better. I think it's because it's a very a studio mic, so it's supposed to be really close, and I've had it off to the side. Yep, that's the right there. Perfect. There are these key lines. Get in here. Got this edge of your pec that comes up to the shoulder. We emphasize that. Perfect. You working on anything today, Celestial? Doing any drawing? Nice. Just think of your basic shapes, right? And you got like a what'd you call that? Kind of like a shape. Chunk out the finger off of that. Fingers are about as gotta keep that in mind. Perspective. Comic book. She wears these list crappy strip there. Perfect. Construction home. What kind of construction are you doing? Right. Comic. Of course, it's tight. Skin getting tucked in there. Bit. Body poses. Yeah, that's the funny because like I was watching. Might have been Dave Finch streams talking about poses, and I'll tell you this: if you study some of your favorite artists, like when they're posting commissions that they do at shows and that sort of thing, a lot of them have the same go-to poses every time because they work. They're interesting. Um, whenever I learned this little trick with the alternating angles on the line, think like zigzag, but stretch that down, it makes all your poses way more interesting. Whether you want to be a more like masculine pose, shapely feminine pose, whatever it is that you're looking to do, that tends to for college project that you're, or is this what's the class that you're buckle? In the very first Saw, stuck in that room, and like the key that they need the room. I think it's maybe on that dead guy. It's too. Have to cut off our that whole thing, that old bit. Why didn't they just take their belt off, tie that to a shirt or something to like sew thing over that they need? I don't know. Oh, with horror in general, I tend to I just tend to overthink everything. Um, but this is one of the poses I tend to use because it's interesting, and it's easy to do, and your brain fills in gaps that there should be more fingers. If I want to get real fancy, maybe I'll put one finger there, and then suddenly it seems like I did a lot more than. How to draw. I draw. Very good job of explaining that I'm doing. But at this point, I'm happy with overall game together. Then I would start inking. Um, as long as I'm confident I've got my line to go. If there's any details that I need to rough in, so don't rough them in at this. Got stuff to do and places to be. Trying to get stuff done quickly and efficiently. So if I'm confident, I don't necessarily rough in the details. Just brawl them. Sure. Especially with Zen. With the corset team that connects up. Right. Fails. Struggling. Go. Bisect it. Yeah. Perfect. Get out of draw. All right. That was done with 2 pencils. And big pencil. Eraser. All using this good one. I used to use a hard white plastic eraser. It's just a lot. So what I'm gonna for pinups, I predominantly 10. I've heard me talk about this one. It sounds French. And camera's not gonna auto. Got this little bullet nib, and you can get real detailed lines. Get nice curvy line. It's only like $1.99, but it doesn't last that long. I'll go to my place I can find them for that price is Joann Fabrics. So I always go in there. I like 10 out of 10. I got this lined up right. Your eyes are screwed up, everything gets screwed up. I used to use a light board. Trace. So I do all my pencils on a sheet of paper, then get a fresh sheet of paper. To do all the inking. Favorite part about this pen. Like once you kind of learn what kind of shapes you can get out of it. Like, kind of wedging in the perfect. Because I have the on. I can hear every little noise I make. Lip smacky sounds. Hopefully you guys are listening to music. I don't get too crazy with eyebrow. I feel like Scott Campbell crazy eyebrows. But they look great, obviously. But I feel like when it comes to the pinup world, like everybody just tries to copy, either copy what he does or they just like little lines. I'm somewhere in between, I guess. Yeah, so I've got a life hack, Celestial, depending on what kind of pens you're. A lot of people like to use the microns. I use a lot of microns. I just feel thin up stuff, and micron, I do feel like they die pretty quick. If you have a particular size that you like to use, if you type in that size micron on Amazon, you can bulk order them. Tax of 10 for like $10. Got to bring, but I just got a bunch in. I feel like the size micron that we test is 0.5. I used to almost exclusively use 0.05, build up all my line. Realized I was taking drawing way too. Don't always want streak. I feel like coloring process felt pretty good here. Added deep buckle on the old choker there. Typically where I one of the things I'll do when I'm inking, kind of create two, go in sort of a preliminary, and if I want to do additional line weight, I'll go in and second line. I don't all fill in spaces like this, kind of hard to see, but when I do the digital coloring, kind of helps add having that little neck muscle tendon thingy. I don't know my anatomy. Some of you are like, yeah, definitely know anatomy. That's fine. Big thing. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll go in and just do a basic outline where I'm not putting in. Go in again with a thicker pen. This one. Those lines juicy. Interesting that there's got to be like a noise gate thing. OBS. When I use StreamYard, I think it takes my mic separately, so it's not taking into account any of my OBS settings. Randomly going back to my design issue. Well, point is felt so big that is riches down. part about belts. Belt anatomy. How they make belts? Drawing them wrong for a long time. Sometimes I still draw them wrong. But I'll notice on other people's drawings how much attention they pay to their belts. Makes me laugh. It's because, like, who cares? No one really stops to be like, hey, bro, belts are wrong. Doesn't really happen. Now, if you put 1,000 pounds, people make fun of your pouches. In all reality, they want pouches. Their characters. Pouches are cool. Liefeld, he was on the right track. Pouches on the table. Deadpool back in the day. Okay, so get too crazy over line work. I do want, especially down through like hip, edge of that stomach, be a little bit. Not drawing in 6-pack abs or anything, but I really hope you guys are listening. I just listen. Unless that's what you're into, in which case I can't stop you. I developed this kind of technique arc like that, where it's like I'm flicking my finger instead of you guess the finger. There you go. Trying not to spill paper too. I used to do time lapse videos where I do my absolute not to spin the paper. That can be done a lot easier, especially when you're throwing lines, keeping them clean to do a bit of motion. Um, Funny, so I've been working on Alice in Slaughterland past, well, as far as this week goes, like a couple days now. I've been working on projects I'm trying to get done that are a little bit more time sensitive. Alice in Slaughterland, March, I believe. But I added a few bonus pages to the book. Been drawing King Alice cartoon form. Kind of funny going from that to slightly more realistic version. I think about line weights. And typically, lines that either have more light on them are going to be thinner, or lines literally. If you think about it, the underside of your arm is physically going to have more weight than the top of your arm. So that's how I think about line weight. Tops of things are going to be a little bit thinner. Get down side, thicker. at the bottom. Thought on that. Fading me. That thing about this pen in particular, kind of got it figured out as to how thick I push all the way to the point where like mashing the pen nib into the paper. I'm pretty confident how thin I just I've developed very forgiving flow. It lets a little bit quicker. Comrade, the business. There's a lot of artist buddies that I have that will other color artists or help them in getting more work. But I find that I am doing the process from beginning to end. So I didn't have to pencil all details. Get my pencils absolutely perfect to hang. I save time there. When I'm working, I know what line you're going to be paying attention to. Go to color, automatically accenting. So I don't have to draw all the lines that I normally skills I normally. Those lines. That's the digital art. Cover up a lot of your mistakes, sins. Yeah, and like garter stockings, exaggerated. Like in the comic book, the cartoon, I actually bought a fishnet pack of brushes. Actually, gonna draw lines. So close. Add a line. Thought process being here. Kind of a lighter line. Hey, what's up, Dave? Good, man. Sorry, I've been ignoring that. I've just been. We're doing a little secret stream today. I've been wanting to do a how to draw video for a while. I need to draw Alice again. Both. It's gonna be your boot coming down. But yeah, Celestial, that using that 005. Oh my. It's also just drawing on regular like 8.5 by 11. The best example I had was I've got a drawing where he's got like 11 by 14 maybe, like that. And it took me probably 12 hours to let's finish a thought here. Start watching Jim Lee take the 9 by 12 sheets of paper and in an hour and a half. I was like, I gotta change what I'm doing. Taking way too long. And the big thing was he's just using different tools. I used to literally use that 005 just to prove that I could do it. And I could do it, but forever. Same size spawn. If I drew it now, I could probably do it in about an hour and a half. This is the part I hate drawing fishnets for a couple of reasons. But it's really hard to fake fishnet a digital brush. Reason being is that there's always a bit of a or a lot of a curve to them, especially how they can tug in different ways, right? So actually, this isn't even a great example of how you should. I think. Started, and as I get further away, bend around the thigh, I'm gonna stretch to do this and not my coloring process. I got to go in and print lines. Exciting. Probably my favorite part of coloring. Get nice here. Dan's gonna get you. And if you follow the anatomy line, it's not gonna be perfect. Good. No. So thinking about it, go with it. Process here is go to this a finished picture. Focus is going to be on her face and sort of adjust everything else out a little. Be a little. That hair. Funny's not the. I use the word. So like drawing dudes and like bulky monsters and stuff. A lot of rendering goes in the muscle stuff. The more you render line work, figures, kids, it ages and makes them simple. Actually color this. Lift. But it's okay to render on close. And a stretchiness and all. Yeah. Stuff. Right? Fix it in check mark figure. There technically is a right way to do it. Okay, we got that in there. Um, she has this big, massive hair that her line art and shading and field shading. Do it digitally, you can do it traditional, a little bit of both. To do it with pencil, challenge with pencil, even though I can do it a lot faster. Markers or anything else. Texture, and if you do imperfections that you fix, very obvious texture. So, not too concerned about cleaning up the whole area. So, when it comes to thing, what are these Copic markers? One's out. I don't want to go too dark. This, so I'm using grays or in shadows. Did watch a Jazza video. Jazza's light area, dark. True. Faster. The reason being, dark spots lighter. Is I'm not trying to do too heavy shadows. Let the get to the digital. Be doing a lot of that anyway. Basic shape on the page. Here. Do it. Going with some darker lines first to start where the edge of that shadow would be. I render from it towards the light. Marker does anything. Set me back a little. Not terrible. Idea being is when I go in digitally, have some shape to them. I find this a lot easier to do than like the select tool. Comes to coloring itself, there is all kinds of different. I'll show you what I'm here. Bit of a watching me break, and gotta scan this, get it over to my iPad. Do this all pretty much in one. I edit the trim it down. I think I'll do it first. Probably be a faster jump cut kind of. Video be we've been drawing for about an hour. Hey, drawing. Lift it. Sometimes do this. I won't even close. I'll just do the skin. I am going to basic shading. If you ever need to refill a coat, let's see its own. First, take off the chisel tip. All you have to do to do that, put out. Tweezers for. Take your refill. Gonna put the whole. Squeeze it on in. You can hear. Oh. We don't do it. That is a. Need it. Figuring out. Brushing out through shadow areas. And the way about it, way for me, whatever side of the bridge of the nose opposite be the light. That made any sense at all. The idea being that if I need to draw this edge of the nose, then my light's over here. If he was looking the other way or way, the light would be on this side. That is my basic rule. It just makes rendering the face that much easier. Plus, comes to everything else, it makes it light source is. Shadow. Now, Ryan Benjamin, good video. How he does rendering. Starts with bigger primitive shapes, what we call them. Drawing these chunkier areas. If this was a dynamic photo, some of this would actually be. Copics, same thing. Of using blacks and darkest. I think this quick marker, like I said, selection, which saves a ton. Shaded like that. And the butt. Get used. Being able to do these different brush strokes looks different than people when they're using like airbrush, texture brush, Procreate or Clip Studio or whatever. Anything that makes your art, I think, is digital makes everything faster. Start to lose. You were the punk rock princess. Punk rock. Casual. Even borderline girl, maybe? Look, princess. Kind of coincide. Larger. Okay. Visions with this hair. I'm not gonna do a lot of digital. I need a base for it. If I wanted to see it as an original, gotta make the hair. She's just got so much hair back here. For sake of time, I'm not going to here because we're going to throw Procreate. Do that in Procreate too, but pretty much pushing that nib down, almost smashing it in for the thicker parts, and then lifting it up. I don't want to do any sketchy line. The outline gonna kind of make the pretty good about that. Step away from computer for but me. Gym shorts. Bought this awesome Epson F. Technically, fax machine. Actually, don't. Printer sucks. Scanner works great, and for 11x7, it's gonna be. I think the average flatbed scanner when I shop in was like $900. Buying this whole giant office print fax machine, like four. All right, I got 50 battery on iPad. I think I can make it happen. 5% battery. iPad. Find my iPad sometimes. What kind of programs you guys use? Right. We're gonna make 11 by 17, 300 tile. And you guys can argue with if that's a good idea or a bad idea. That's fine. Don't care what I use. What I do. Print shop that I use will only do DPI. Sometimes I will do 600 if I plan on later. First thing I do is drop the file into Procreate. I instantly drop the opacity down. Some people will change the color of their. I don't care. Make a bunch of multiply layers. Flats. Pretty good. Probably need more. But I do have an Alice comic. Just this camera. Okay. Lighting is going to be weird because I have to work quick because 5% battery. Battery does last for a while. Does go quick. So I use on the inking tab, I use syrup for that. And it doesn't leave artifacts when do the drop fill. Now I usually start with the face. My opacity is all the way up. I am kind of rough with my flats, but the idea is I want, for the skin in particular, I want color here. I want the color to get all the way to the edge of my outline. Color over the eyebrows. You'll see exactly why I'm doing it later, but typically with all your flats, you want that anyway. The color extend all the way of your outline. Especially when you do like lighting layer stuff, you can get some artifacts if some people have different tips and tricks for flatting faster. This is the tedious part. Already drew everything, already outlined everything. Gotta go back in, and there are some people that paint on one, but I am very much every color gets its own layer. Sometimes even parts of clothing will get its own layer, especially if I'm doing textures. Then you just drag and drop, fill in that whole area. I'm gonna do some cool later with that. I am not the cleanest artist. I'm not the cleanest colorer, not the clean anything. But what we're gonna do is something that is going to tie this all together. It's gonna be a nice picture. And what I find is some of the things that we get hung up on as artists with details and make sure everything's absolutely perfect. Sometimes it matters. A lot of times it doesn't. Edge of that outline. Ends if I accidentally go into the background, it's not the end of the world. Final. In the end of the world if on some of these things I accidentally get a little too sloppy with my lines. Biggest thing though, especially on the outline, that the entirety black line gets covered if I did it right. Almost like I've flatted before a couple times. The lines like this, the idea is whatever's on top. If I really cared, that would be like if this was a yellow or corset, then that would want to go to the edge, that black line, because that's on top. Typically in this process, I only care about skin tone. Show you why. Momentarily getting there. One part. A lot of skin showing, it actually bring a lot. All that stuff. I should do this video for a long time just because I'm going to show you some of my secrets, my top secrets, and make this all so easy. Feel free to use them if you want. Doesn't work for you, don't use it. But Clip Studio. Clips. I've heard good things. I've never actually used it. One of those things is like once you learn an interface, excuse me, learn to make it work for you. There are times with Procreate I wish control. Everyone I talk to says that the things that I'm, of course, Clip Studio has it. Maybe one day I'll make the change, but not today. And, oh. So, what kind of music do you guys listen to, or do you listen to music while you're drawing? I typically don't, but if I do, right, I need to turn, but controls, they mess me. I find it very unintuitive to tap my pen, change it to an, don't ever use it. All right, I'm going to show you close-up mistakes here, right? So the flesh tone accidentally got on her fishnet, like garter is. Doesn't matter. No one's going to see it. I'm not going to waste time making it perfect. Especially when it comes to these fishnets down here. Like the actual individual netting. The trouble. And actually this whole thing, I'm not gonna. Thought process being, I'm gonna go in over these fishnets with another ink. It doesn't matter if I cover it up with flesh tone. It'll matter for a short minute. See? So I go right down the list. This is her eye color. New layer. Do need to clean up some of these speckles that should have done that for I just smudge tool, turn down the opacity a little bit, cover the area, fix, kind of smudge out some of those. I have some like dots of ink that are permanently, I try to clean up my printer like permanently on there. As long as the face is clean, everything else. Trust me, it's there. If you've bought any of my art, I guarantee sections. I just can't be bothered to. Pardon my language. Eyebrows, I just goes on it. Here's a weird one. Lots of different approaches that I've used. Try something for. I think it'll work. Base layer. Base layer of hair. Top of it. Got a hairbrush extended that works. That. Got my detailed loopy. Certain point problematic. Up your jacket. Now. Getting closer to finding the problem. Accidentally double tap. I know they make special gloves. We're getting there, friends. Hang in there. Hang in there. Magic is about to start happening. Cladding is crucial. Isolate the layer. If I only change your hair, all on one. Change the texture on the clothes. Hair. Anything. Apple Kid, and I don't have the 1,000. Yep. I made a decision 15 years ago. Switched to Apple. I was trying to do more production back then, but then I also had a Android phone, and it had failed me. I had a buddy that was Apple. About game changer that awesome that got your life on there. Got all your one spot, all your contacts in one spot, devices. It hold on to devices and iPhone 11. I got it when it was top of the line, and 5 years ago. At the point now where I have to carry around life support for the bank. I'm more tempted to just get a new battery. I want to spend the money locked in contract, their monthly payment. They do make them gaming phones. The Red Machine 10 or something like that, whatever it's called. That thing is This has got to be opinion part about drawing, going in, tracing all these. But I usually have a podcast on something that I can listen, learn something, try to learn something, topic that I don't know. Keeps me entertained. Very rare that I just sit in silence and I'll do it if I really need to focus on something or if I need to let my thoughts. Otherwise, something if thoughts. Jazz works. Just be very mellow. Having a movie on in the background or a show, spend the whole time just want to watch it. It's weird because I'm a kid. I actually focus better if there was background noise. Something. Maybe that's a product of being an out. If it was dead quiet, I would lose. Teacher was teaching to be doodling. I could pay attention, pick up everything that they were saying. If I wasn't doodling, daydreaming. If you were watching at work, apologize to the boss. We're almost there. Belt and black. But things I'll do quickly follow those long paths that I just I do is I'll draw a line, get at the end, and it creates a perfect little. Even if it's subtle, a lot of times if you try to do a curve, it'll try to make it a straight line. Right. Lively coffee shops. I haven't tried doing the coffee shop thing in a long because I got a weird flow. I typically don't do what I'm doing right now. I'm sitting down and doing something to completion. I'm bouncing literally around the room, around the house, on different projects at different times. Character colors on palette stuff. Go in. One of the reasons I'm doing get irritated people that are and they post like a process video, and there's significant jumps process. Okay, that's maybe where an artist to think all the AI stuff. So it's I did. Anyone see how I do? Sit down, you can rattle on. But then again, like there's also people who are just interested, and if some of this is great, if it's great. I learned a lot. You're gonna see here from resource stuff. Fantastic, very entertaining to watch. Don't do true like a decent rated dark. Get back to that. All right. So like just at the end, I just that one curl. That was like the biggest things I struggled with. It's cool that they have like these automatic curves, curve lines, straight lines. But try to that one work. See how it just switched to a straight line. Bastard. I know there's like a short hand that you can use. There's a go in and check mark thing. Check mark. Sorry, boss. Find out here quick how good a job. Yes. So it might like I'm digitally inking. So when I go squares, allegedly package showing up today, and that guy rings. I've got one delivery guy that heck out on me every. Sometimes I'll hit it. Surprise me. No. You can already see where I went wrong. Right. All right. Um, after the first few of doing this in real life for myself, this past, I have vowed never again. This pattern costume, I think it looks good for Alice. I don't know who first started doing that look, that checkmark look, but a bit. Papers. It'll be fun once we. Brush because I'll be able to do any kind. is the biggest challenge I have with watching digital art. They look perfect, and I don't blame them. That they're row line absolutely perfect. And I think Artist Alley, seeing a bunch of artists, starts to kind of look the same. Everyone's, for the most part, I can say everyone. There's a lot of digital artists that want their line art to be absolutely perfect. Perfect yourself. I was getting technical and dig in a little bit at each. All right, let's get makeup going. To the fun stuff, like powdery. This picture is going to start transforming quite a bit very quick. I'm using a for that. Back it down. Darker on one. Up doing every time is I just duplicate it. Gaussian. Back down. Bit more on the side. Apricot. I don't know. Peaks a little bit. Makeup. And I'll explain layers here really quick. So, multiply layer lets you color line art without getting rid of the multiply is a great one if you're additional art. I'm gonna make it opaque setting you in. I like Vinsky ink eyelash, and I'll zoom in so you can see. So I got a new layer here. I got about half size and maybe third opacity. I did the first time inking. Here's a nice thing about this. The wedge shape it makes, like perfect lashes. Thinner, especially for the lower eyelashes. Love it. There you go. One. Perfect. Pony sort of spike. Drive to the thought that just can. All right, I'm gonna start doing some. I got one more thing. All right, so typically background over my primary, I want the pop more. So like this blue. pick the opposite side of the color wheel, desaturate it a bit. That color though. Well, right now we've got a lot of again color theory. Right, purple. Color theory is one of the things you can think to your face, but I'm not going to be detailed with outline. It's going to be for my background. I do want it to be pretty spot on. Too much. Fix it in post. Syrup. Gotta use syrup for this. When I go to fill it, it's apps. Right. But then good news is so disadvantage that you've got can't like paint a whole background behind them. There's ways you can kind of budget, but doing that, creating an out around the character. I can background layer. In the alpha lock, I'll second. I can just paint on this layer without accidentally coloring over. As far as the issues where I have some floppiness in my way I'm doing outline, too. Copy. Coloring. Start over. There are artists out there way more. God bless them. I don't know. I think my patience for that kind of stuff is grown thin. I feel like the return on investment, some of these spending extra, but find something that works. Execute. All right. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Full time our line has been at like half opacity. We're going to kick that back up. This is important. A lot of stuff really quick here. So, first thing we're going to do, select our skin layer, and it. Take that layer that we just duplicated, go up to adjustments. Now, completely noisy. Go to gradient map. Gradient map, color values, full picture. I have a gradient map that has, instead of black, like black would be all the way on the left, I made it more of like a brown. I've added some red tones, white all the way on the other end. See this? Still looks really bad, but those are all flesh tone, right? Here's what we do. take that layer and we're going to cut it down to almost barely visible. And here's what it's like without it. I'm going to bump it up to like 7%. What that does is it gives your skin texture. Super subtle, but it works great. Next thing we're going to do, this is like one of the most important steps. We're going to pick our skin layer. We're going to select. We're going to select all of our skin tones. Whoops. One from all right. If you get little patches like down here, it's not going to matter. What we're then going to do is going to go to our line art layer that we already shaded. Now that we have this selected, it right now it's just selecting because I went to the line art layer, selecting all the skin tones on the line art. That same gradient map, what it did, just like that, from having grayish shading with black lines. Zoom in here, you can really see it. To skin tone, softens everything up, but then it still has hard lines like the clothes and the stockings and all that stuff. Works great. Plus, with all that grayscale shading that I did, it's now got those warm tones in automatically. Easy skin. We're gonna make it even better though. So what I like to do, just in case, is I'll duplicate the skin layer, hide one of them, so that way I've got a clean skin layer in case I need it. We're gonna use Alpha Lock. Extreme example. If I just wanted to color on the skin but not hair, this is how Alpha Lock works. Now, whatever's on that layer, I can color on. If I didn't have Alpha Lock on, got to do that and Procreate. Tap on the picture on the layer, and then pick Alpha Lock. But without Alpha Lock, color anywhere. With Alpha Lock, you can only color on her skin. So your skin has a warm, called a subsurface scattering. Comes to like the reddish tones on the skin. I have a skin texture brush that I bought that is worth weight in gold. And of all the textures that they have, for the most part, unless I'm doing freckles and stuff, but even that, Airbrush Details 3, and I scattered it a little bit. What we're gonna do, white layer on it. Anywhere where the, think of it this way, anywhere where your bones really push against the skin is where you're pushing a lot of blood against the skin. So that's where you have more red parts. Anywhere where blood's flowing. And super subtle. Like you can barely see that it's doing anything. So you zoom out and it's, crap, she's got a bruise. Back that off. Real subtle. Anywhere where there would be darker shading, or blood flow, that sort of thing, especially around nose and cheeks. Brush. Not gonna go crazy. That's all what happens when you go crazy. Like she's got skin disease. Kind look you're going for. Just want to add it, especially to the rib cage here on the stomach, thighs especially. Sure, it kind of layered up around the upper thigh. Kind of go a little bit heavier thighs. Freeze them. Blood flow. Right. Last step for the skin for now. Back to our original skin tone, and I just bump it up a little bit brighter. So it was here. Bump it up. And then anywhere where there's going to be highlights, very softly I'll go in. My opacity is like maybe 10%. but I've already got shading down, right? I already went in there with those Copic markers when we started. This is just just a bit more texture. Huge on texture brushes for everything, but there's certain things it's like it just makes brings it all together. I already did all the heavy lifting. Just tie it all together. Coloring ability that just like that, we've got much more again, got way more texture. Now, if I wasn't set dead on in there, I could technically like duplicate that layer and then play with the opacity, maybe a bit darker, a little bit lighter. I like where that works good. All right, that's done. Typically at this point, I would go in on close. So the close are gonna be super simple. Same thing, I'm gonna pick, maybe go a little bit lighter. I do have some fabric packs. Bricks and MPC fabrics. It works. Front up subtly. We're just gonna go. There would be a highlight. Put over the other areas too. Big thing is texture. The problem that they look very processed. Looks get a thing. Not trying to make it. Not trying to substitute drawing brushes if I can help. All right. So that's pretty good. Back to that. All right. So that's all in there. But we're already. All right, everything shadows, shading. Learn another trick. So taking the same color I have for color, a much lighter version. Bokeh lights, background, to make like the softer light. Turns into like sparkly color. Not too bad on a sparkles on the skirt too. Boot, put on the gloves. We got sparkles over. All right, before I do any like shading, the like the textures and stuff, I have a standard shadow and color range I use. I used to really struggle with shadows, but hard light is the way to go. Hard light, that syrup brush again. What this does, go in, this, if I color right now, it's pretty dark, right? I wanted to back that down to 50. I go in, just make much hard line wherever I want definite shadows to be. This does take a little bit of time. I don't go too crazy with Copic markers, because if you use Copics to do all your shading, you can really picture. But come in here, this, anything that's gonna have shadow. What we're gonna do, gonna take the time to do this. Then what we'll do, once we get all this put in, we have a Gaussian blur. By everything. Relatively boring stuff. Critical. A lot of people will do shading. They'll go in like an airbrush and a selection tool, and it works. There's trade-offs to it, and there's trade-offs with everything. Thing is about the quality of image I'm looking to get. I have other projects to work on. The kind of quality I can plot by using good. Hard light is the win. There's other ways they can do shading, and it's weird to think that hard light would be like the go-to. Shadow, but it does a working color value. You use multiple. A lot of times it drawing. Hard light though. The other problem that you tend to run that airbrush method, they don't get the hard shadows. Let's be mindful that you do. A lot of times in an effort to not ruin anything, you don't get it enough. and there's some areas that just need to be shadow. This whole area, sort of where hips dip down, it all needs shadow. So instead of wasting time sitting there with an airbrush coloring it in, selection tool, shadow. Dump that. All right. I might want to add shadows, but I'll duplicate it. Reason being is highlight layers don't play well with each other. So if I do need to add stuff later or take stuff away, I like to have almost like a save game, like an autosave. Take that shadow layer. The max opacity. Backing off. So I'll get the original that hasn't been blurred. So if I need to crisp up edges or make it darker, that either way, I still do. That works for shadows. Pretty good about it. They'll need to add light and background. At this point, I like to get a background in at this point, just because gives me an idea as to how I want to. I think I want to. All right, when it comes to backgrounds, a lot of times we'll start with whatever the sky's gonna be. That render background, mostly for time. Thing pretty good. Think. Colors are guys for that. Just the lighting with the camera and everything. Sure, there's a white balance I can adjust. Now's not. All right. So typically I want to go saturated color at the top, less saturated bottom. Often make I like using nebula lighting. I can dig that. Big thing is going in. Well, get some softer text. All right. Do it. Create some kind of background. I'm going to abstract right now, guys, simply because of time. Get through this. Got stuff to do. But I also potentially am going to make print. Possibly a cover. I like getting that background in first, just with some of the value. Curtains. Columns. Find that I'm doing sort of a generic kind of concept. Very easy. A background. We're gonna duplicate it. All right. Kind of at this point, I have a glow going around, but I want to get her hair. Hair looks like garbage. Alpha lock that. Brushes I actually paid money back. That sharp whiz friend. Do it and go in. I already kind of dictated Copic marker kind of which way hair was flowing. Now we're getting selection. I think this looks like garbage because it kind of does. Pull it together, I promise. Got some tricks up. Pick a highlight color. Typically, work it more. Next trick. A new layer on top of the background. Back to the sharp wisp. really see how it makes strands. A lot of time. Typically what I'll do is I'll just round a lot more work to do. Good. Shadow layer autosave that I did. We need to like what? Back to my strands that will come. Shadow going. Areas I want to touch up shadow now that I'm locked in. Some of them I do. It's not more angry. Simply because it's going to help show that areas are more defined, but other areas that I want to be more pretty good about that. All right, gonna start tying this together. All right, so one of the tricks that I'll do, I kept this basic layer for the back. I'm gonna activate that simply so I can do this. I can select selection tool, automatic, just the background. Get rid of that multiply layer. Top of it. And do get that or the nebula tool again. Lost my. Go back, select it. Background. I'm losing. We're gonna do there. Nebula. And duplicate it. We're gonna do this layer. Bottom of the two. That blur again. light wrap around the edges. If we need to, and duplicate it, make it even stronger. Our opacity for that. I think what I might want to do, same idea, but I'm going to try something. Try doing variation. I'm going to use a formula. Yeah, there we go. First thing, duplicate that layer. Bottom one. Got an add layer. Add just adds, makes it more a glitch. Perfect. That way, you can have a more true bright light front, but that pink light in the back. That works pretty good. Okay. Anyways, some other things I'm going to do here. I do want to have a bounce light pop a little. Typically, you want sort of the opposite, different forces that a typical yellowish light here, or light. For this, I'm going to use a basic. Not going to go crazy. I just want to put definitely on bridge. Crazy though. Go with the color part of the subtle. Already got tons of shading information built into this character. Don't want to go crazy with. If I was doing like cell shading, I'm doing for the comp, then I would be a little bit harder with lighting. But there's a lot of people. I'll show you here real quick. What they would do is like on our chest here, on our breast, they would do like a free circle the area that they want to shade. Come in, make a really hard line. And that works if you're doing a more graphic style shading, I think. I find that a medium airbrush and kind of work that line would be, you get a better gradient. Thick. Oh, lasso tool. Light. Little light. A little bit on there. I find that lighting on the air just doesn't work. Kind of have to air on it. It's out pretty good. So let's take a look at our color wheel. This is something I think about when it comes to my bounce light. It's going to be. So I've got yellow light, the main source. I've got pink light as sort of a background. Color theory would maybe something in the spectrum light. We're going to give that a shot first and see what that. We're going to use our cheat code again, our autosave feature on our hard light shadows. So take this one, rid of the old one, selected. We're going to take our hard light shadow layer, alpha lock it. do, we're gonna take our airbrush. If I have light coming down this way, bounce light, rim light coming this way, what I'm gonna do is just around half of the picture. Start off by doing a little bit of a blue light. Top of it. Take a version. Back down to luminance. Take light pen. Get pretty chunky, but I'm going to back off the opacity. What I do is, especially these areas that might have gotten messed up a little bit from the background effects, go in that light pen, touch up some of that, get a pretty cool little bounce light action going. Doesn't take that long, but it helps show that there's more going on in the scene than, you know, somebody standing there getting their picture taken. Then I want to accent fix, because if I'm sloppy with that multiply layer background, it can wreck a lot of stuff. This is the saving grace. Actually, so that fishnet would be digging in. That. Okay. A little bit out from there. I don't think that this process is necessary for do, but I think the more that you can end up, it doesn't take that long. Satisfying. The only thing you got to remember is that this light, bounce light, can exist in shadows. Light, your yellow light that I've got going on is going to overpower light source. Technically, I have three. I have the main light, I have the pink light from behind side. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna effect. Here, that's going. I really darken her. Yeah. Speaking of hair, I'm gonna do with this hair set, as it does have areas by that background. Kind of sell that wave. All right, there's technically some more shading I should, but I'm gonna show. So you want a cool way to tie everything together, this is where you want to pay attention. All right. So this is by no means the best picture I've ever drawn, but I can make it a lot better. A couple extra steps after I do a highlight. Then you could start really paying attention. This is my light pen. This is my trademark thing that I do, or not, but most people do highlight for the eye. 2, 3. Couple extra. Got to do this. You can also hasty shading. We'll fix that later, guys. The cleanup is a big part of drawing, especially when you're sloppy like I. Sloppy. All right, here's where you want to pay attention. Highlights in there. Got all that good stuff. How can we take this picture to the next level? I learned this from watching Line Sensei, and then there's another artist, Lost Art. Here's what we're gonna. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bring up our big background, just so I can select all the area that our character would. All right, if it's not perfect, we're gonna go to the very top, add a new layer. We're gonna make that our over layer, and then take a nice saturated color, cover that whole thing. This is gonna do is then we take kind of goldish yellow, our airbrush tool out, and any area that we want the viewer to focus on, definitely gonna paint that yellow. There's gonna be some other areas I want them to look at, but the brightest is gonna be almost always. You can see how we got this blue area, but then we have yellow that's pushing up face. Now here's what we're gonna do. While we're still like this, we're just gonna do a little go blur. We're gonna back down this opacity until you barely see it. So without it, what it looks like. No opacity, or can't see it at all. Go too far, you start to see it changes the color of your picture. Want a nice subtle, make the face glow. Dude, Line Sensei is awesome. If you want to learn how to draw in general, let alone cosmic coloring, Line Sensei is the dude. All right, so next layer, we're gonna copy the whole canvas, paste. This is one of his. This is a Line Sensei thing that I'm showing you right now. So he does oversaturate. He uses a slightly different process to saturate. That's just the easiest one for me. Blur the whole in. Add noise. Not a ton. So, show you again. Those of you playing along home, created a new layer that copied the whole canvas to bump up the saturation. I do it twice all the way. Different programs have different effects. That's fine. What we're doing here, we're gonna also that blur for everything. Do that. That's gonna do. Show here in just a second. We can change our lighting effects. Lighten, green, and depending on what you're trying to do, you can choose different options. Line Sensei says there's biggest differences going to get you higher contrast. Green is going to sort of light and everything. I prefer using green for print simply because print shops that you print way darker than what you think you're gonna print. So making everything just a bit lighter helps. Got that done. Next step, we're gonna copy canvas again. We're gonna paste, and this is Sensei that he'll then do a gradient map on the whole thing. That one. Reason being that this can help tie together all your colors. I really like one. I think this is one of the thing gradients that came preloaded with Procreate, but you can change these colors to be whatever you want. Point being that we then go down to color. Again, we start backing down that slider. How it looks. I like it right around there. Usually where I go somewhere 30%. I think that looks pretty interesting, pretty good. I like that. One more step. Line Sensei does this a little bit different. He does the copy canvas paste again. He'll do the whole thing just a blur, Gaussian blur. Actually, there's another one. We'll do this one last. We'll do the blur here. So perspective blur. I use this instead, and this makes you focus in on face. I just set this to where I want the focus to be, and now stream that I'm blur. Right, as you get further away from everything, I tend to keep it around like a, I don't know, 15 to 20%, somewhere in there. Got one more step. Chromatic aberration. Oh, we're down to 10%. Done. I then kick on some chromatic aberration, and it's gonna make everything look kind of like it has a 3D effect, but that's not exactly what it is. I'm gonna take the eraser tool, airbrush, face in particular, those areas that I had kind of colored in yellow. I softly erase those, back down this layer. So, like the amount of focus that is happening. So it has the effect of like really drawing to those highlighted areas. One more step. Copy canvas again. Paste. I forget the dude's name. Does a hard light with blur. Same thing, you just back it down. So you get sort of the effect that you like. Again, I like it probably around 30%. Go. Last bit of effects that I'll do now. If you put these in prior, it kind of gets overdone with the take background. Add very soft perspective blur. half power eraser. Like that. Fairly respectable. About 2.5 hours. I could have taken more time at the beginning drawing, just to ensure that detail, that sort of got those locked in. I could have drawn in a proper background instead of DS background. Depending on what you take the time to go in, draw all that. And depends on what you're covered a lot of ground. Showed you how to do some stuff with like the skin textures. Good stuff without getting too out of control. Tied it all together. Process. Questions? Wrap this up. You guys could hit the like button before out. So March is when we launch. Allison, I use this cover. Definitely be promo art. That book. Definitely check that out. Hey Celestial, I appreciate you hanging time, bud. I wasn't sure if anyone was gonna jump in. So I'll do like the secret shows, and it's like one where it's me. So I have the win. But I've had a lot asking this process, and I wanted to take time to I figure, you know, on other projects, and that's my process. Is it perfect over time? Yes. And this camera is totally out this picture. Looking at the color difference, it's. I'll have to post a finished one, maybe on Instagram or maybe at the end of this video I upload. This weekend, stuff going on around. Big one is I've got a yeah, I'll definitely share the finished picture on like Instagram so you can, because it's backlit screen. I don't know if the backlight settings might be able to. But the big thing is, last couple days has been 100% getting the card game. Got a card game that I'm working on. I think it's good. A lot of work. Finished up. Thanks for hanging. Especially Celestial, thank you for hanging out for the whole. Guys, that's where I'm gonna call. Appreciate you. Probably next. This will probably be the actual last video. Guys, thanks. Peace.